Welcome to Attican Plays Railroad Corporation. All right, hi, this is Attican and welcome to another Railroad Corporation video. We have a little treat for you here today. We're going to play multiplayer with Gardit, and I'll introduce Gardit in just a second, but this is going to be really different because, let me introduce Gardit now. He is absolutely one of the best players of this game that you're going to find anywhere, and I've played a fair amount of multiplayer with him. Some of my other online buddies like Devil Hunter and Macedon, who are both excellent players as well, have played with Gardit. And Gardit is the man. I think that's fair to say. I hope I don't embarrass you, Gardit. Now, Gardit doesn't like to be recorded voice-wise, so what we did was do a lot of chatting, and right now we're kind of looking over the map we've drawn. And what we're playing is the new DLC, the Volatile Markets. And we had a little session prior to this, kind of chatting through Steam Chat, just talking about strategies to take, and I picked Gardit's brain on a lot of the things that he likes to do and why he's so successful at this. And he's saying here now, in fact, we have a really nice setup for multiplayer because we're on either side of the big water in the middle, and that means that both of us should be able to expand out and build a decent economy, which is, of course, the whole key to the thing. So let me give you just kind of an intro to this DLC. You're basically having to start up a business by providing it with what it needs to get going. And then you have to maintain that business. You can never allow that business to have a time where they can't produce more goods because they've got too many in their inventory. You can never have a time when they can't produce goods because they don't have the raw materials they need. And in addition to that, you've got to make a lot of money. And as you can see up there in the upper left-hand corner, the market prices will fluctuate during the game. You can see there the grain is at 0. It means it's a standard price. Logs down there in the lower right of that upper left box is minus 5%, but then you can see you're paying extra amounts for textiles, for example, 40% over the standard. So right here, he suggested I do a save just in case we had a problem we need to come back to this start. So that's what's happening right there. But at any rate, so the idea is we're going to start this business, and the business we have to start right now on our screen, lower left corner, called in Boulder. We have to start up a printing house by bringing it 20 units of paper, and that will get it started, and then it will start producing, and then we have to make sure we can sell those books. And now Gardit's position is up to the left in what they call Milwaukee, little off screen up to the upper left, and you can see me, I'm over there on the right hand side in Grand Rapids. So we've drawn a good starting position. Based on that starting position, Gardit will have to do most of the work, and that's cool with me. So what we talked about prior to this were kind of some of the keys to this. One of them is passenger and mail revenue. You have to have it really to do well in this. So what we're discussing here is the way we're going to do the lines. He's going to take care of Chicago, Milwaukee, his home up there a little further north, and then on up there are 2 more smaller towns up to the north. And then I've got 3 decent towns, 1 good one, Grand Rapids, and 2 smaller but decent towns. One called Malden, which is up to the upper right. There you can see Gardit's position. He goes all the way up to Eau Claire up there, up to the far north, and then there's a small town over on kind of a peninsula out there to the right. So he's going to run passenger mail for all of those. I'm going to run up to Malden and then eventually over to Toledo, which is across another body of water. So I'm suggesting to him here, why doesn't he set up his starting position and how he's going to do the track so that we can all see it, and then talk about what he's up to. So I'm going to fast forward ahead till he gets that done. And this is all on pause. We're on pause here. We're just chatting and kind of talking through what we want to get done. So we'll come back to the discussion as soon as Gardit gets his track set up. All right, so you can see there that he has set up double track between these two big cities, Chicago, Milwaukee. He's run single track through the logging up there, on up into Eau Claire, and then over to, I think it's Duluth. I think they call that town up there to the, over in the corner, stuck up there. So eventually he will upgrade. In fact, I'm asking about it now. Is his intention to eventually double track it, and he will. And he's drawn a good position, though, because he's got two cities, Milwaukee and Chicago, that are both large. They'll have really good volume of passengers and mail, and he doesn't need to go through anything to get to them. Now, to get that paper down to that starting industry, we need a sawmill, but he doesn't have to mess with that sawmill over there to the left of his tracks because Chicago has a sawmill. So he got that lumber up there to the north. He's got the sawmill down here, so he's got a very good starting position. What we're talking about now is how to do research, and we chatted about this before. Gardit's approach here is to go to the Jervis, but to upgrade the John Bull a little bit with one power and a couple of speed upgrades before you move on to the Jervis, so that it performs better in the interim until you get to that point of having the Jervis, and then you do, change all your trains out to the Jervis, and then you're good to go. So for me, on my side, it's not quite as nice, but it's fine. It's beautiful, in fact, that's what I'm doing right now, is setting up a finance department. I'm setting up my research. So I want to get a full-blown research department going, and I want to do the research as I was just describing. So I'm going to go out here and do a speed upgrade on the John Bull, a power upgrade on the John Bull, and I'm also going to do the fuel consumption, because we're going to work our way across. We're going to just research right through the DeWitt Clinton, get over to the Jervis. And as Gardit and I discussed as we were playing, going John Bull to Jervis is a really nice transition, because you really are running the same loads. The number of passengers, the number of freight and stuff that you run on the Jervis is the same as the John Bull, or can be if you choose to go that way, which I did, and I think Gardit did as well. And that way you don't have to edit a whole bunch of trains. It's very nice. And so you just get a faster version of what you already had, so to speak. So now the track is taking it out as far as he can go and still have enough money left behind to get 5 trains going, because you really need to get that express stuff going. You need to get that passenger mail stuff going to get your revenue going. Now, I will say this was hard for me, because I'm being very passive here and taking directions as best I can, and I'm not always great at following directions, nor am I always comfortable being passive. But it's okay. It's okay. I will definitely bow to the master here. And so we're talking about how would he set up my side. And he's suggesting taking Grand Rapids to Schaumburg to Bloomington to Malden instead of having a direct straight line. And you'll see I'm going to follow that, and we'll talk in a minute about a technique I've noticed that Gardit uses, that Devil Hunter uses. I think Macedon uses it most of the time, that I have not used in the past, and that's basically, well, I have used it, but not to this extent, of these interim stops like Schaumburg and Bloomington there, using those really as intersections to bring other stuff into your system by hooking them in there, rather than having intersections out on your line, because the game handles it much better bringing them into stations. So you're basically just using your stations like they were junctions. And you also want to pick up certain ones that are going to give you the value. Now, Schaumburg, it turns out I could have done without Schaumburg, because there's no textiles over on my side. So I really didn't have the opportunity to set up any kind of, cotton to textiles to to the clothes factory. So it was a bit of a waste to have Schaumburg in there. But Bloomington was definitely useful. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my track now to get that Grand Rapids to Malden side going. And then the intent is to, and here we're just discussing it, I confused myself for a second. I was thinking going Malden down to Bloomington to Somerville to Toledo, and I had a little brain cramp because I forgot that Grand Rapids is really my only big city. So I needed to have both sides of my passenger mail go from Grand Rapids up to Malden, and then another line, Grand Rapids over to Toledo. So that's what we're discussing here. And the light bulb came back on for me, and we're cool. So I'm going to set up my lines now to, as we've discussed, to go up to Schaumburg and then work my over to Bloomington and then up to Malden. And the whole purpose for this line, the main purpose for it, is to get passenger and mail revenue going. So now I'm just asking, okay, how would you play this? Would you go into Schaumburg, come back out on a single line, or would you go ahead and bump it up to level 3 and give it the ability? It's almost like a pass-through station. And his answer is level 3. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to bump it up to level 3. That gives us 2 sockets, if you will, at the station, two tracks, and that way we can double track straight through. I've also noticed that's a technique that the other folks I've watched play, the other good players, they tend to use these 2 tracks through the stations, kind of a setup, and then you get that 3rd track for level 5 later on if you need to expand to it. But to pass through a station, everybody but me uses this, so I guess I'm going to have to start using it too. So bumping that up to level 3 to give us that extra socket, and we'll definitely want to try to double track as far up through here as the money will allow, and hopefully all the way up. And those of you who aren't familiar with the game, if you do these little tiny steps like this, you tend to cut down on the amount of soil excavation, and even though you're creating many more blocks, it's cheaper than trying. You certainly don't want to drag one big line all the way from one station to the next and call that your track. It may look prettier, but it'll cost you much more money, and it's much less efficient because you can't run trains once you only have one block. So in this game, every time you click, you're creating another block along the way. And the more blocks, actually, it just works out, the cheaper the line. So you really want to watch that. You do get some, especially with me, I'm not a very good track player, you get some squirrely looking, curvy looking things, but it works. It's still got good speed, and it works. So I'm making sure that I've got enough money and I've got that finance department set up, double checking myself, because I want to be able to run this whole line out. So let's speed it up again till I get this done. Okay, so it's we've got our initial track laid. It's time to make sure we've got some trains running. And so I'm setting up passenger lines from Grand Rapids to Malden. And I'm going to end up setting up 3 passenger trains, 2 mail trains, and then I'm going to send another train up there to Bloomington to that sawmill and have it ready so that as soon as I have some money, I can set up the little short run with that wood going into the sawmill, which will be a nice profit maker. So here I'm asking him if he likes to max his bonds out and max out the time on the loan, which is the same technique I've been showing in all my Railroad Corporation videos, and yes, he does. Max out the bond, max out the loan time, so that you get as much money as you can to play with up front, and you have as long as possible to pay it off so that the bill doesn't come due too quickly on you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a bond for as much as it'll allow me to take. I think it was $100,000. Let's just see here. Yep, 100,000. We'll set it up for 12 months, which is the max, and there we go. Now we've got some more money, and that'll allow us to finish off buying the trains. If I hadn't already set up that finance, I would have had to be really careful to make sure that I had enough money to run trains, because if you get all your track laid and everything done and you don't have any money left, you're in, well, you're done. You're in deep kimchi. So we've got our 5 passenger and mail trains, 3 passenger and 2 mail trains set up. Going to add that other one for the lumber, as I said, and Gardit's going to, as he says, is going to go ahead and set up his trains now. Now, if we weren't doing all this chatting and kind of trying to come up with different things to share with you, obviously we would look at the initial strategy. We would probably play on pause for just a minute, just to confirm how we want to attack this thing, and then we both just go, and we would have gotten started much faster than this. You typically don't wait and sit around and lay your track and wait 5 minutes and then run your trains, obviously. But we're doing this to try to come up with things to share. I'm trying to kind of pick his brain as we're playing. So I've got 6 trains set up. I think he's got about the same. And now we're about ready to actually start playing. Now we've moved ahead just a moment, and I'm asking him about repairs. When does he set them up? While what's his philosophy on repairs? And what he likes to do is have kind of a main place where you do repairs, like in my case, Grand Rapids, because all my trains are going to come through there, or almost all of them, and have a lot of upgrades on it for repairs. So you'd have faster repairs, cheaper repairs, whatever, and multiple repair bays. And that way your repairs are handled mostly in one place. And of course, sometimes you'll have to send them out. Now I tend to play where I put spread repairs all over the place. There's arguments for both, but I mean, obviously, if you see his results, I'm not going to argue with him. So I'll have to start playing this way as well. So we're just about ready to get started. Finally. All right, so now we finally start. And they've given us the message that we have to build that business down there in Boulder. But we already knew that, because if you look in your objectives, it's already there at the beginning. So now my trains are rolling out slowly. His are too. You can see we've got some passengers headed to Grand Rapids, et cetera, et cetera. So this is going to go for a little bit until we both gather up some money. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and maybe not as much as I have the other pieces, and so you can kind of get the idea of what's happening. And I'm setting up these guys to get repaired in Grand Rapids when they come back. That's what you see me doing here. But let's move on ahead a little bit. Now, for those of you who've watched any of my Medieval Dynasty videos, doesn't that fast forward music sound like Medieval Dynasty? It really does to me. Okay, so at this point, ready to into that sawmill and start bringing wood over there. So I'm asking Gardit, what does he prefer as a connection out here like this in order, to build a spur line. So let me pull up something that he had posted in Steam, and it'll give you a good visual of what it is we're trying to do. And then I realized after I did it, you watch me make it backwards. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's a picture of what Gardit likes to use for his junctions that are kind of out there in the middle of the world. And you can see there are 6 connections to that station, 6 double tracks that he can attach to. And he doesn't build all those to start with, of course, but as he put in the Steam discussion, he thinks about which ones he's going to use to go where, right? And plans that out. And so I'm supposed to be building that bottom one, that loop on the bottom, because that fits where I am on the map and the situation, the way my station is set up. And you can see from the picture that the intent is to loop in the direction of the traffic flow. Well, sorry, I'm laughing at myself, but I did it backwards and looped against the traffic flow, so I had to edit the direction of the lines to get everything to work. Just a total brain cramp, but it worked. So I'll do better next time. I take that back. I just had a closer look. I did it right. Or at least I did it according to the way that diagram. I had never seen that diagram before until he sent it to me after we finished playing. But I actually do this correctly. Little did I know. Now, you might be asking, couldn't you just run a line straight in there and double track it back as a single? Yes, you could. You could do there's all kinds of different ways you could set up these intersections. But what I wanted to show you here was a style that Gardit in particular likes to use. So here it is. And the hesitation here is I'm just trying to decide, does he mean build a loop, just a short loop around the station itself, or do you actually double track and just have it loop through the station? And it was really the double track. That's why it's taken me so long to build such a simple little intersection. And this is another example. We played a lot of this game on pause. Obviously a whole bunch at the beginning as we were talking through stuff and I was asking him questions and what have you. And then even here, you can see the pause. I've paused the game to build this because I didn't want to, I knew it was going I was going to take time. And so I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing what it is he's telling me through the chat. So I finally get it. So here we go. So there we go, a nice little loop that's going through the station that'll allow us to, now we can take that train we've already moved out there in advance, and we're going to get that one set up to run logs. I also asked him, if you were doing this, how many trains would you run? Would you run more than one? He opted for at least a couple. Because there's a lot of, you can throw a lot of wood into a sawmill like that. That's what we've done. We've got the one running, and then there'll be another one coming. And it took it a while to come out of here. I think it's because it was a change made, and these other trains are coming. And I was concerned that it wasn't going to work at all. That the direction things were wrong. And so I think, if I'm not mistaken, I actually go in and delete part of the track at the end and reset it and make sure it's bi-directional. I probably didn't need to do that. If I just waited a while, that train would have worked its way out of there. But just right this minute, to me, it's not working. And of course, what we want to do, we want to make money running the logs to the sawmill, and then we want to make some money running the paper over to our bigger city, at least until it's too big. Here we go. Here's where I kind of changed the direction on a couple of things, and I just want to make sure that that train can come out of there. So I put a little piece of it as bi-directional. And there it works. So maybe that was it. Maybe that's exactly what I needed to do. I couldn't swear to that, but it certainly seemed to work. And it could be just coincidence. That's when it happened to come out. Anybody know? Okay, now I'm asking him kind of a generic question about what does he do with employees, and I'll give you the short version. The answer is basically, in something like this that's going to go quickly, you would get a compelling employee. Like if you had somebody who was going to give you the train you're targeting at a big discount, of course you would take them. If you were going to give someone who would give you more passenger or mail revenue or something like that, of course you would take it. But generally speaking, no, I don't think, I couldn't swear to this, but I don't think either of us ever set up an employee office through this entire playthrough. Okay, let's move ahead a little bit more. We're just at this point, I'm just kind of letting it run so that this economic engine can get started really going, and we can start seeing some return on our investment. All right, so you can see by the dollar figure up there, we've hit 100,000, and now it's time to get on over there from Grand Rapids to Toledo. So at this point, I'm asking him, okay, if this were you, would you go through Santa Rosa and have that intermediary step? And his answer was yes, he would. Now, you might wonder why. Why would you get an extra station and have the expense of having to maintain it and all that stuff? Well, again, think about the way these the junctions are being done here. There aren't any junctions out in the middle of the track. You're doing junctions with the stations, so that station there would be just across the bridge from Toledo, would be the place where any other lines that we might have that need to go over there would hook into our system. So it's really, you're building a junction. And I ended up building it and then using it to run a train to haul iron ore over to Grand Rapids, but that didn't work so great. It was too long a haul, and actually it lost money the whole time. This game is really, you want the shortest distance, particularly with freight, that you can get. Now, passengers mail, it's okay for long distances because you get bonuses for the distance traveled. The ticket prices are higher. But for freight, you're really buying, in this game, you're buying and selling freight. You're not really hauling per contract. Even though they have what they call contracts in the game, you are really buying goods and then selling it. So you're being a wholesaler or a middleman. So here I am setting up the track to go over to pick up that iron ore. I got a little, I wanted to come in and set it so it was pointed toward Toledo. So that's why you see me swing out a little bit. Probably could have done a much better job with that track, but it's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and set this up to level 3 to make my pass-through station and double track it. and we'll come back when all that gets done. Now, no, we'll stay here. We got these little special things where you get this bonus pay you get money for building a new station. And that one happens to be Scottsdale, which it happens to be over on Gardit's side of the map. And we had a little discussion here. He said, he made a good point. If you're in multiplayer, you would look at both players' starts and probably get if it's in the middle where both parties can get it, you would just kind of give it to the person who had the rougher start, who had the tougher start. But we both had a pretty good start here, and so he ended up taking it and getting some free money out of that. So those do pop up. You get 1, 2, 3 of them, whatever. One thing about this, there is a fair amount of replay ability in this particular DLC because it's only the one thing. It's just what you're seeing right here. But every time you play it, you get a completely different set of industries scattered across the map in different ways. The towns, I think, are constant. They stay where they are, but it's completely different in terms of what industries you get. Now, another thing I learned that actually he and I discussed after we were all done with this was that bridge right there. Had I gone up to the bank and hit page up like say 4 times to increase the elevation of the bridge, you can actually build the bridge in sections across that water. You don't have to make it one big long block. You can actually section it across and put multiple blocks in. That's something I had no clue you could do that. So thank you, Gardit. I appreciate the info, and hopefully it'll be helpful for all the rest of you. So now I'm setting up the same thing, 3 passenger and 2 mail lines to Toledo. And I think I would have been well served. We may have even discussed this at some point, and I just forgot, to have optional on those mail and passenger lines to keep those trains running, particularly out of Grand Rapids since it's being hit from both directions now. But it works either way. I haven't really done any studies on which is better. Is it better just to have them running with 1 or 2, or is it better to have them wait and run full? And I think partly it depends on the circumstances, but there probably is a legit, quantifiable answer out there. I just don't know what it is. If anybody does, throw it in the comments. As you can see, I'm making progress toward the Jervis. In fact, I'm ready to start researching it. I just need a little bit of money. Now I've got that line going out to Toledo. That'll make decent money and looking pretty good. And you'll notice, now I didn't do a good enough job going over it. Later on I'll spend more time looking at the green. But notice how much he's expanded. He's got that, he's gone down into there to that cotton in Joliet down there. He's gone over here to League City. He's starting to pull, with that one makes perfect sense. He's pulling wood over to his sawmill because that's what we need to actually get that business started down there. But he just keeps expanding. And I will have to confess, one thing I did in this game, and again, this is partially the passive way we were playing, or the way I was playing, and just, I don't know, just, call it what you like. But I just sat and waited on him to tell me what to do next, and he didn't say anything because he was expecting me to just go play like I knew what I was doing. And in theory, I do, and I kind of do. But I just kind of sat and watched. So I did a little bit. I did a few things, but then I just kind of sat here and watched it for a long, long time. And I really, really should have just been continually, aggressively going out, particularly for short haul freight opportunities. And then the other thing I did goof up badly was the sawmill was creating lumber, which could have sold in multiple places, and I didn't do that. I could have had trains running and selling that lumber in Grand Rapids, probably up in Malden, maybe even down in Toledo. Toledo's not ready for it yet, but can sell the logs down in Toledo, which I eventually do. But point is, instead of sitting here watching your screen run, keep expanding, keep looking for new opportunities, provided they'll make you money. Like that grain field there in Gary, I could have run that over to a couple of the smaller cities and made money that way. So you just got to keep expanding and keep growing your business if you want to make more and more money. Now, this game does have, on the other side of that coin, there is a point where you do just want to kind of hold off and save up that last bit, because you have to hit we're playing this on hard, so you've got to hit that $3 million goal. So you do want to stop spending any big investments, but you want to keep finding ways to make money, that's for sure. So here I'm closing out my bond. He had just closed out his bond a little before that. So we're both kind of debt free now and looking pretty good, and got decent economic engine going. I've got 2 good express lines going. He's got his good one between these 2 big cities, and he's got really 2 other lines that are not quite as productive because the cities are smaller, but he's got like 1, 2, 3 passenger mail lines going. I've got two nice long ones, so we're both looking pretty good here on that point, and we're making decent money, both of us. He's making a fair amount more than I am, I'm sure, because he's expanded more aggressively. It's almost like what he has is similar to what I have, plus he's got all the stuff he's doing with Boulder down here with the printing house, and you do get paid for bringing them stuff as you come along, as you're getting them set up, as you're bringing them the paper, you do get paid for it. So let's just move ahead a little bit more. Like I said, I kind of get into, unfortunately, sort of this sitting back and waiting mode way too much here. I should have just kept on expanding. Shame on me. All right, so here you can see I am moving out and picking up those logs up there, so they can bring logs down to Toledo. That's a pretty easy one with low-hanging fruit right there. So good for me. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is start that oil. Running from Bellflower, there's an oil field and there's an oil refinery in Malden, so I can make some money hauling the oil down to Malden, and then make a little bit of money, hopefully selling the kerosene down to Grand Rapids. Now, what was interesting about this is, and I probably didn't, we were doing kind of a debrief afterwards and kind of thinking I didn't push this hard enough, but I also looked at the 2 trains I had running oil and the one running kerosene, and they were all losing money, which I thought was a little weird. And I don't recall the market prices being that unkind at that point, but I'm not sure about that. But I did notice that these trains that I'm about to set up lost money. They never did recover their initial investment, so I went backwards with this. But that shouldn't be. I think I would have, I would have done this, maybe done it harder. Maybe it just needed more time to run. I don't know. Now, at this point, I do, you can see I got about 20 days left on the Jervis. So I'm just about to get the Jervis and want to switch over to the Jervis. And I was kind of thinking, now, do I really want to build this line and spend this money, or do I want to save the money to update to the Jervis? So I decided to go ahead and build the line. And for better or worse, I decided to go ahead and build the line and try to make some money with this oil and boost my economy a little bit more and get that going. And by the way, one thing I didn't mention, the big difference between this and the other TLC or the regular game, you can't buy any industry. So we don't have the option of buying the oil well and then selling it to the refinery and then buying the refinery and then selling the goods to the city and stuff like that. You can't do it. And it makes a big difference, because that's one of the key money makers in this game is creating your own industries, and that way you're getting these products for quote free unquote. I mean, obviously you have a huge investment to buy the industry, but once you do, you've got you can grab the product and then sell them wherever, and you're not being charged for the product when you pick it up. So that's where you make the really big and really safe money. In something like this that we're doing, we have to buy all these things. Like right here, the train that I'm setting up right here is going to have to go out and buy that oil. And now he will be able to sell it at a profit, but you still have to spend that money to get the oil. And that being said, you run the risk, particularly if something happens and your money gets really low, you can get in a situation where, you can get negative and get those overdrafts, and you can even go broke if too many of these happen to hit at one time and you just happen to have a bad cash flow position at that moment in time. So this is a much harder deal than being able to buy your own businesses, because in this game in general, once you get to the point where you own some businesses and you're starting to ship those goods out to various places, that's when you really start rocking and rolling on the money. And there I'm checking prices to see if it's worthwhile to haul from that sawmill down to the I forget what industry it was, but it's an industry that needs lumber. I think it was it could have been tools, it could have been whatever. Anyway, there's an industry down there that needs some lumber. I am also checking with him just to confirm that he would, now that he's got the Jervis, he would fully upgrade it, and he confirmed yes, that's what he would do. It's certainly what I would do, is fully upgrade this thing. Now I tend to do 5 at once I get a full-blown thing like this, because you do get if you put like all 20 on one, which you do to kind of move along to the next train, but when you put too many on one research, the amount of gain you get from each additional one is diminished. So I tend to do them in groups of 5. I don't know if anybody's done any studies on what's the optimal way to do it, but that always seems to work out. So here we go. That little message said we're going to make 25% less on our passenger and mail. So as this thing goes on, over time, every once in a while, the passenger and mail revenue will actually decrease. So you really want to get on this and get it done so that you don't get in a situation where it's getting lower and lower and lower to the point where that passenger and mail revenue has just dried up. You can see Gardit there is doing a lot of, he's got 3 contracts going too. That's something I probably should, a lesson learned too, is just go get those contracts and get them done. If they're doable and if they're profitable, of course. So here I'm setting up the line to go to tool factory. That's what it was. Going out to that tool factory to sell some lumber out there. And I want to double track this little section right through here because we're going to get traffic going both ways on that. And here I decided to go ahead and bump this up to a level 3 so I'd have the 2 stations and I could run track from both sides. So that means I just got to delete a little bit of this track right here and reconnect it into that other socket. But they're a little too close, so I'm going to have to back up a little bit more. There we go. So I'll double track that, run some lumber down. It's kind of boring. Let's move on. Well, I said let's move on, but really we're going to stay here because the next thing we're going to do is, now that we have the Jervis, we need to upgrade it. We need to upgrade it to take all those John Bulls and schedule them out for an upgrade. And each one of them is going to cost us, I think it's $21,000 roughly. We'll get some value back from selling off the John Bull, but the Jervis is much more expensive. So got to watch when you get into this stage. You got to make sure you got plenty of money. So actually what I end up doing here is starting that process and queuing them all up. And well, you'll see what I do. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So we've got about $220,000 in cash right now, which isn't great, but it's something. So we're going to look into doing upgrades of all of our trains and move them all to Jervises. And you really, if anything that shares lines needs to be upgraded, because if you upgrade like just the passenger trains and there's some other trains on that same line, then if the John Bulls are slower, which they will be, then they're going to slow down all your other trains. So it's really kind of a in for a penny, in for a pound kind of deal. You need to do them all. And in fact, right there, I was looking to see, how much did I want to go find my passenger mail first. Oh, and he was talking about he'd had a good quarter, 500,000 last quarter. I was trying to see if I was even remotely in the ballpark. I was around just under 300,000, so I'm doing all right, but not great. Not great at all. So I decided just, as I said, in for a penny, in for the pound, just do them all. So I'm getting them all queued up so that we can do the replacements. And what will happen is every time one of these trains that has that upgrade order, a scheduled replacement order, when it hits a station, it does the upgrade to the new thing, and you pay the amount. See, it's the price of $21,000. That's the price of upgrading from a John Bull. So you pay that amount every time. So you can see how that money can go away pretty quickly. Now the good news is when they hit the station, typically they're making some money as well. At least you would hope. So you don't have to have, $100 million to do this, but you do have to watch the money closely. So there, I've got them all scheduled. A couple of them have already hit, and I'm just going to watch the money here and see if we get too low. Keep doing the research on the Jervis, making them better and better. And one thing I have to say, do you see how slowly the trains are moving? I had forgotten, it's been a while since I've played multiplayer, and I'd just forgotten how unbelievably slow it can seem at times. But here I just did a quick bond to make sure I had enough money. I didn't really worry too much about the terms or anything. Here's where Grand Rapids has grown too big and doesn't need the paper anymore, and I just tossed that one since I was a little tight on the funds right now and concerned about them. And now we get the message saying our printing house has been successfully started. So Gardit has done his thing, and good job. Good job, my friend. You have gotten the business started. Now our challenge is and really it's his challenge because it's over there next to him, but we need to keep selling the stuff it's making. I could have, could have, and probably should have run over there and grabbed put a train over there across his lines to, grab some of the books and bring them over to Grand Rapids, but at any rate, it wasn't a problem. He took good care of it. And there you see, I opened up a bond just for a bit. And then as soon as I had all the trains updated, I knew I was positive on cash, I closed out the bond because I didn't want to be in debt. So now I've got all Jervis's debt-free. He's in the same boat. He's debt-free, probably with much more cash than I have. And he's all Jervis's, so we are looking good at this point. So now I'm going to set up some lines to do stuff that I probably should have done, quite a long time ago. Sell some lumber down there to Syracuse. Sell some lumber in a couple other places, like Toledo could use it, and that would all be good. And here I really do get into the kind of the just, Gardit's message was save, and I took that too literally and just stopped playing. Basically, and just let it run. It was okay, but no, I should have kept growing. Should have kept looking for good opportunities. And here I'm just curious. Now, how much is he killing me? And it's not a competition, but just the same, I'd like to think I could play this game, and you can see he's out earning me by a fair margin. So if we were playing a competitive game, he'd be killing me. Now, I will say, in my defense, one, I was being very passive and just following directions and waiting on directions. Shame on me. But the other thing is, I do like his starting position a little better than mine, but that doesn't mean I couldn't have done a much better job over here. I could have done way better. And see, right there is easy money, selling lumber to Malden, short haul, good profit. That's the kind of thing I should have been doing. But I'm going to speed it up again, because now I don't have enough shots of his side of the world, and really there's not much else going on now except just kind of waiting it out, because we really have we've both, he's played extremely well. I've done all right, and we're looking really good at this point. It probably would be a good thing if I said eventually, well, what does that mean? Our goal is to have $3 million in cash between us, and we're looking good to get there now, because when he said save, what he's saying is don't spend any big money, on big investments like a big long line or anything like that, but just keep growing the business and mostly just let it run now and take your profits in. All right, we're very near the end now, and you'll see how little I contributed. Well, you can see it up there. I've got about $600,000 in cash. Remember, our goal is to hit $3 million, and Gardit sends a message almost there, which tells me, he's close to $2.5 million or so. And sure enough, look at that. He's at 2.365 million. I got 659,000. It's like I wasn't playing. But anyway, I learned a bunch from that. Hope you did too. I hope you see what a good player Gardit really is. And let's see if we can't summarize a few of the things that we talked about here. Now, one is, in any multiplayer, you and your partner should talk over the strategy and decide what you're going to do. Now, we had already discussed this. We kind of knew what we were going to do as our basic starting to go get the long passenger mail lines, etc. And we drew a good map where we were on opposite sides. It was easy for us to do, but you definitely should plan it out. That's number one. Number two is have a research plan, and I think on one like this, with the timing like this, going for the Jervis is a great idea. And just a little bit of update on the John Bull for power and speed, just to make it a little bit more effective, and then get that Jervis and fully upgrade it and move all your trains over to it. And that's probably going to serve you well on this particular DLC. Go after passenger and mail revenue. It's pretty stable if you play pretty quickly. If you've got Gardit or Devil Hunter or Macedon as a partner, you'll go pretty fast, and you won't have to worry about the diminishing returns on your passenger mail revenue, because you'll be done quickly. The other one, lesson learned for me: keep going. Don't sit there and watch the stupid game. Keep playing. Keep expanding and growing and looking for opportunities, and don't be shy. I got a little gun shy on going out to get more stuff. So shame on me. I know better than that. We saw how he likes to do the intersections, using the train station as your intersection. You can, by the way, do it other ways, many other ways. They do work, but This is the way the guys that I see who are the best players I've played with are Gardit and Macedon and Devil Hunter, not necessarily in that order, but those guys, they all tend to use that using the train station as your junction kind of an approach. So that's one. We talked about research. We talked about the importance of passenger and mail. This particular DLC, I think it's a fun one to play, and I hope you'll all get in there and give it a go. And if any of you would like to play multiplayer with me, if you see me out there online, hit me up, and we'll give it a shot. So I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed playing it. I think Gardner and I are going to try it again without so much gabbing at the front, and see if we can't play it faster, and I'll try to actually contribute something next time. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railroad Corporation video. Thank you.